What's a popular tourist attraction that actually deserves all the hype? Story 1. The Grand Canyon. You think, yeah, big hole, then you see it and your brain goes quiet. It's that majestic. Reply 1. The words vast and immense took on a whole new meaning for me. It's one of those things that's awe-inspiring in the truest sense. Reply 2. Yeah, it kind of short-circuits your brain. There's something very unnatural about seeing such a massive expanse. Everywhere you look, your eyes only focus on the distance. Reply 3. I couldn't process it. It almost looked fake, like I was looking at a static background image, and there's no way there was actual depth to it. Reply 4. In my whole life so far, that was the only thing where I said, it can't be described, it must be seen. Reply 5. I went earlier this year. Really wasn't that excited about it, but figured we are in the area, might as well. Holy hell, it was awesome. Story 2. Pompeii. I had really high expectations and the place still exceeded them. It's absolutely massive. You could spend multiple days there. If you have any interest in history whatsoever, I promise you'll like the place. Some of the details are insanely well preserved. Like, there's a bathhouse there where you can still see graffiti people scribbled on the walls. There's immaculately preserved tile art all over the place, including a famous one of a dog that I just loved. There's a spot where you can see a political campaign ad written on a wall. There's also this one spot where there's a whole other layer below the room that is from a Semitic culture from about 500 because that lived there before the Romans moved in. Like, Pompeii isn't the oldest thing in Pompeii. And that stuff too is remarkably well preserved. You just really get a sense of what it felt like to live in a Roman city. It's probably the coolest thing I've ever seen. Herculean is great too if you're short on time. It's got a lot of the same stuff as Pompeii, but the site is smaller. And they're still excavating it. I think only about 70% has been dug up. There were archaeologists actively working on it when I was there. Reply 1. Same with the Roman baths in the UK. Graffiti sample. May the gods curse he who stole my sandal. Laugh out loud. Reply 2. The baths are cool and I've been multiple times, but it really can't hold a candle to Pompeii, which is so immersive. Reply 3. I love the Beware of Dog mosaic. I felt awful for the dog plaster in the museum. Can see his leather collar, it is so detailed. Poor guy was tied to a tree as the world around him was ending, scared and alone. Reply 4. I made the mistake of going to a Pompeii exhibition the day after my granddad's funeral. Saw the dog, I burst into tears and had to leave. Reply 5. It is heartbreaking to see. I am glad I saw it. But the context, especially if you love animals, is hard. Calling somebody a dog is an insult in every language. No idea why, really. Most loyal and noble animal you will ever meet. I am sorry for your loss, Reddit friend. Story 3. The Smithsonian Air and Space Museum's Udvar-Hazy Center in Chantilly, VA at Dulles Airport. It's amazing no matter your interest level in the subject. Wear your walking shoes because it's huge. Parking is $15 and entrance is free. Reply 1. I was in town for a work trip and had a day off. Figured I'd pop in here for a bit and then find something else to do. I was there for 5 hours and strongly considered going back the next day. Fun story. There was a guided tour going on that I latched onto for a bit. As we passed by the F-14s, one of the guests in the tour group had this exchange with the guide. Spike. Guest. I hoped you'd talk about the F-14. Guide. I typically skip it because folks tend to already know a lot about it. Guest. Yeah, I get it. It's just neat because I flew that F-14. Guide. Ah, you flew F-14s? Guest. I flew that exact F-14. That's my name written on it. The guide then proceeded to ask him a bunch of questions about the history of that specific F-14 to validate the dude's claim, and he knew it all. Reply 2. I remember taking a tour there once, and you could tell the tour guide absolutely loved what he did. He just seemed so excited to talk about everything on the tour, and believe me, this kid knew what he was talking about too. He still had an almost childlike wonder about everything. Like he literally couldn't believe he got to just hang out at the museum and talk about planes all day. And his enthusiasm was just so contagious, laugh out loud. By the end, he had me and my Marine buddies so excited to be there learning. I'll never forget how awesome that kid was. Reply 3. 100%. The guide I was following along loved it so much. He also had taken one of the last Concorde flights, and he had a binder with him of photos he had taken on the flight. He was so excited to tell us all about it. Reply 4. That is pretty incredible. I bet that tour guide tells that story often. The sheer likelihood to be standing there for that is crazy. Reply 5. Similarly, the United States Air Force Museum in Dayton, OH is a can't miss. Totally free, they ask for donations, and a ton of aircraft to look at. Story 4. The Pantheon in Rome. It is the oldest continually inhabited building in the world. It is mind-boggling to realize that Marcus Aurelius himself had entered through the same portico as we use today. And to give it further point of comparison, when the Great Basilica of St. Peter was built in the Vatican, the Pantheon had already been standing for 15 centuries. Reply 1. Pantheon was my favorite thing about Rome. The Colosseum was kind of underwhelming in comparison, though I will say St. Peter's was unbelievable as well. I would sit outside Pantheon every day and just look at it, have a drink, and bask in it. It felt almost alien. Reply 2. The Pantheon is absolutely amazing, but I would contend the Colosseum is equally so. Yes, comparatively speaking, it's in a state of disrepair, but when I've seen it, I've always been struck by how stadium design has been more or less unchanged in 2,000 years. The floor of the Colosseum is about the size of a football field / soccer pitch, and it seats 60K. If it hadn't been raided by the Church of all the marble, and during the Middle Ages, where people stole all metal that provided extra support, it would be totally reasonable to host modern-day events there. Bonkers, when you think about it. Complete aside, but if you go to the Colosseum, the best thing to do either before or after is walk to St. Peter in chains. If you are into Catholic relics, they have the actual chains worn by St. Peter. Again, depending on your faith, your mileage may vary. I'm not a believer, but cool if you are. The real reason to go, though, is the Moses sculpture by Michelangelo. It's as impressive as the David in terms of detail, but no one is ever there. You have to pop a euro into a slot so it's properly lit up, but it might be my favorite work by the Ninja Turtle, if only because of how intimately you get to view it. It's flanked by a marble sarcophagus for a pope, if memory serves, that was done by his students. It's impressive too, but pales in comparison to Moses, further highlighting the brilliance of Michelangelo himself. Edit. Apparently, I can't spell Colosseum. Reply 3. It's crazy to walk down a tiny street and turn into the plaza to see the Pantheon. Truly breathtaking. Reply 4. The whole terrazzo surrounding the Pantheon with places to eat and have a cocktail is a great place to spend a few hours. Maybe watch the shadows change and observe humanity. It was just a short walk from my hotel, so it's become my favorite attraction in Rome. Reply 5. I walked by the Pantheon every day for 2 years on my way to university classes. Never took it for granted and would stop in now and then to admire everything about it, especially the oculus in the dome, going at different times of the day to watch the play of the sunlight streaming in. I'd also stand in front of Raphael's tomb, silently offering gratitude for the beauty of his works. Plus, my favorite cafe, Tazzadoro, was nearby. The best cafe, cappuccino, and granita de cafe anywhere. Story 5. Redwoods in California. Feels like you're in prehistoric times. I expected to see a dinosaur more than once there. Absolutely magical and breathtaking. Reply 1. Most of the miles on my car are from going to and coming home from the Redwoods. The trees there are magical, and I know I sound like a lunatic, but spending time in the Redwoods made me understand vegetation as a form of actual life, just as valid as we animals. Those trees communicate. They hum and vibrate. It's a wondrous experience. Reply 2. I've never been to the Redwoods, but in far north Queensland there is a rainforest called the Daintree. It is thought to be the oldest rainforest in the world. I've been there several times, and it has a similar feeling to what has been described here regarding the Redwoods. Everything is so big. It's simultaneously overwhelming and utterly beautiful. Reply 3. I have a redwood tree in my backyard, and at least once a week I find myself hugging it. It brings me so much joy. Reply 4. Agreeing with the CA redwoods. They are so magical. It really feels like you're in a Disney or Spielberg movie. Story 6. Pompeii was so freaking awesome. I spent an entire day there and wished I could have been there for longer. I've been years since I went, and they continue to excavate, so I can only imagine it's even more interesting now. Reply 1. Hard agree. Pompeii blew my mind. I'm a massive ancient history nerd, so Pompeii was on my bucket list. 6. Ochars of going, OMG, oh my god, oh my god. I was so tired, Herculean was just as good. Also special mention to Karnak, Abu Simbel and the pyramids, and Knossos. Oh, and the Forum in Rome. Story 7. Mont Saint-Michel, France. Reply 1. It's amazing. I went there in 1994 when I was 8. I thought all medieval castle would be like that. Everyone since has been a disappointment in comparison. Reply 2. 100% agree with this. My wife and I went last year. It was April, so probably not peak season. Even so, there were a lot of people walking around and was still one of the most amazing places I've been to. Story 8. Bruges is unbelievable. You can walk for hours and never seen the same building twice. I mean by that every building has tons of super unique architecture features, ornamentation, decoration, and scenery. Most places you go, you can see the same building over and over throughout the city. Not Bruges. Incredible food, wonderful people, great climate. Story 9. I really liked Edinburgh. It has a lot of personality, interesting history, and didn't seem too touristy. Good low-key chill vacation. Reply 1. I've lived in Scotland my entire life and still stop in awe whenever I see Edinburgh Castle. Castle built on a dormant volcano? That's so unbelievably cool, what the hell. Story 10. The Alhambra in Granada, Spain, Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, the Colosseum in Rome, boat tour in Chicago. Reply 1. La Sagrada Familia is incredible and is only going to keep getting more impressive. Went in 2008 and then again in 2016, was blown away by how much of the interior was actually finished those 8 years. Reply 2. I'm going to Chicago next week, last having been there over 30 years ago. What's so good about the boat tour? Reply 3. I'm not who you asked, but I'm a big fan of the Chicago Architecture Riverboat Tour. It's just a great way to get the lay of the land, and the different architecture is amazing. I've since had to show some family around Chicago, and immediately took them on the tour. They loved it. Reply 4. The Chicago Architectural Tour is one of the few things that locals love as much as the tourists. Skip Navy Pier, Lou Malnati's or whatever. Reply 5. You feel so tiny on it when you wind through the skyscrapers. It's a fantastic tour. Have done it twice. If you're on a tight budget, the water taxi goes pretty much the same route. Story 11. Angkor Wat was amazing, as was Cambodia in general, but I could spend a week just admiring the temple. Reply 1. The whole complex is incredible. Not only main temple, but everything. It's so huge, and lots of the smaller temples you can discover, almost on your own sometimes. Reply 2. Woke up at 4 a.m. to go, got there, and it was pitch black. But you could feel this entity in front of you. The complex feels like it has a soul. Slowly the sky turns from obsidian to dark purple, and you gradually begin to make out the temple in front of you. It had spirituality to it, and I am atheist. As the sun comes up, of course there are the thousands of tourists taking pictures, myself included. Didn't matter. It was such a profound experience. I would recommend it to anyone traveling to Southeast Asia. Story 12. The Met and MoMA in New York City. All the years of growing up in a small town and seeing the works of art in textbooks made it that much more impressive. You are walking along and bam! There is something that was in your 5th grade textbook. And there is another, and another, and another. All these things that existed before in books are right there in front of you and close enough to touch, but don't. Story 13. Architecture boat. Tour in Chicago is excellent, interesting, and a great way to see the city. Edit to add, specifically the one done by the Chicago Architecture Museum. Adding, if you're a tourist, the absolute best day to really see the city is to go up in the Hancock Tower for the aerial view, then do the architecture boat tour for an immersive view, and finish with a walk out to Navy Pier for the skyline. Bonus, if you can squeeze in a boat ride on Lake Michigan. Reply 1. Agree with this, but also just Chicago. Great food, great vibes, great people. A superlative sports town, and I lived in Boston. It's less hype than New York and LA, and it's all the better for it. Story 14. I know this will sound bad at first, but especially with current climate of the world, it is more important than ever for so many reasons. Auschwitz-Birkenau. We have all heard the stories, read books, and seen movies. Unfortunately, the WW2 generation has passed, and their first-hand accounts are now stories, legends, history. Being there, it's really difficult to explain. The reality of it is emotionally disturbing and horrifying, and holy crap, this happened. The efficiency and the incredible thought that went into the concept of eradicating an entire group of people. Dark beyond words. This can't happen again. Going there will change your life. We are better together. Love. Edit. It's amazing to see the response of good people here. Remember, the more people educate themselves on our shared history, the less chance that something like this can happen again. Unfortunately, there are those that choose to close their eyes. There always are. Remember not to compare horrors. This was just one, although a very horrible thing that has happened to people that is evil and unjust. I'll say it one more time. Love each other. None of us are getting out of here alive, and it's not a contest to see who makes the most money. We are better together. Humanity is love. Reply 1. I'm German. Been there during school. It really did take my understanding of my country's history on a different level. It engraves the concept of never again deep into the brain. Reply 2. Similarly, Oradour-sur-Glane in France, it's a martyred village left as it was after the Nazis massacred the inhabitants. I had probably the same feelings walking around there with everybody, either in complete silence or hushed voices as you did at Auschwitz. Somewhere I've only visited recently in my life are the Commonwealth war graves around Ypres. I'm British and live within easy day trip distance. Similar feeling just looking at the immense loss of life from the Great War. Quiet, contemplative, unbelievable sadness that even today the world still hasn't learned from all the lessons of the past. Story 15. Most of the ones on Atlas Obscura are worth checking out if they sound interesting to you. Unlike other travel guides, I find their stuff to generally be as interesting as it sounds on paper. If you are bored of skylines and wish to find more weird crap to do while traveling, you'll love it. Edit. I'm particularly partial to the animated KFC chicken building, the Spam Museum. Also never seen a place go out of the way to be inclusive of neurodivergent visitors. Plus, Route 66 is iconic for a reason. Reply 1. I was super impressed by the Spam Museum. Actually laugh out loud. I didn't think I would be. We went there for a laugh on a travel hockey road trip, probably 20-ish years ago. We just wanted to break up the drive to the Canadian border and stretch our legs. Figured it'd be hilariously bad, and I'd never even tried Spam. It was something everyone always kind of poked fun at for being gross, so I never sought it out. We were greeted in the entrance by someone griddling Spam and offering us free samples. Tried it, and it was actually really good. I think they had kind of a presentation about how people like to make fun of it, but they actually use really high-quality cuts of meat. It's just tinned is all. Then you go through this super interesting and informative history museum about Spam, but also adjacent world events and such. They had involvement, and it's just completely not what you'd expect. Point 10/10, definitely recommend a visit. Exceeded my every expectation by miles. Reply 2. Agree with Atlas Obscura. We do local stuff we've never heard of. Planning a road trip next summer, so we're using both their books and their podcast for ideas. Story 16. Michelangelo's David in Florence. It's just incredible. I couldn't stop staring at it for like an hour. Reply 1. I agree. It's the one thing I've seen in my life thousands of times in print or on TV, But when I saw it in person, it caused such a physical reaction. I was completely in awe of it. Reply 2. Came here to say this. It's inconceivable to think someone carved this from a discarded piece of marble. The most impressive work of art that I've seen, and it's not particularly close. Reply 3. I had little interest in seeing it, but went because I was in Florence, so why not? It stopped me in my tracks the second I laid eyes in it. Reply 4. I'm not really into art. Don't get me wrong, I'm impressed with what people can do, but art museums I will head through pretty quickly. I stood in awe of Michelangelo's David for at least an hour. It is indescribable. I don't think I've ever been so rapt by anything inanimate in my life. Story 17, the Colosseum in Rome. You walk in and instantly feel the weight of history. It's massive, surreal, and somehow still standing after nearly 2,000 years. For once, the crowds are justified. Story 18. Venice isn't overrated. It's absolutely one of the wonders of the world. If humanity disappears and aliens look at the ruins of our civilization, Venice will prove that we weren't useless. Reply 1. I implore anyone visiting Venice to just wander around a bunch, get off the main tourist thoroughfares, go to the smaller islands. My best memories of Venice are all of tiny little hidden beautiful places, with no one else around that I never would have found if I hadn't been willing to just let myself walk around at random and get lost. Story 19. The Great Wall of China. You've seen pictures, but once you're there, seeing it climb up and down these mountains, it is genuinely amazing. Story 20. The Tower of London and Westminster Abbey are both worth visiting more than once. I hesitate to call them tourist attractions, although they do get plenty of tourists. Reply 1. As an American, there was something very trippy about being in a place and going, the stone that I'm standing on right now was placed here just under a millennium ago. Or, the doorframe I just walked through is older than everything in my entire country by longer than my entire country has been a country. Reply 2. Tower of London is amazing. Especially as an American, we don't have anything nearly that old. The history, the Tower Guards, the Ravens. And I could let my 3-year-old run his legs off in the moat while we relaxed. Such a bonus.
Thanks for watching until the end. If you have a similar story to these that you want to share with us, please leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and subscribe. For more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.